Hey, what is up, everybody? Hunter Orell back with another great conversation. Today, I'm joined with one of the founders from chainpro.xyz. Chainpro calls themselves a hedge fund ready trading terminal with advanced features, security, auditing, and all the things that you would want if you're trying to execute at the highest level. They also are thinking about how to discover trending tokens faster and essentially just provide traders the most advanced tools possible to give them the highest edge. As you'll see in this conversation, we talk a lot about what other people are doing and how they see gaps that they can fill in and how they're using unique technologies and systems such as swarms and TEEs, which are trusted execution environments to make sure that their product is at the forefront for trading terminals. As always, thank you for tuning in and listening to these. It means the world, and your support does actually mean the world. But enjoy, sit back, and here is a conversation with chainpro.xyz. Awesome. While you're doing that, I'll just introduce what we're doing today in the conversation. So we're joined by one of the founders from ChainPro, Shaker, who has been spoken very highly of. And the reason we're having this discussion today is because the meta that we found ourselves in has been very, very highly skewed towards almost PvP trading and having to have the best tools, the fastest execution, the best strategy, find things the fastest. And you can't do this with some of the existing tools out there. And so people are looking for the most sophisticated trading terminal to do this on. So Chain Pro has essentially entered the market and is using what you guys describe as hedge fund quality trading terminal with tools to go alongside that. I know I'm not doing it justice. I think the best way to introduce it is maybe for you to jump into like who you are and what you guys are doing.
Cool. Yeah. First of all, thanks so much for having me. I've heard great things. I've been watching, some of the streams in the past that you've been doing like this week or even like the last couple of weeks. It's been awesome. So super pumped to be here. Yeah, to talk about Chain Pro a bit. I mean, the way we like to describe it is that it's really the most powerful and secure trading terminal that there is out on the market today. And I think both of these things are important. So I'll talk about kind of each one kind of in parallel. Powerful in that we support a wide variety of trade types, right? It's not only just like standard market orders, bump the priority fee, bump the bribe. Okay, that's kind of table stakes at this point. I'm sure you've seen 50 other trading products that offer something pretty similar.
Yes.
uh, you know we're excited about things that we've built in house, things like swarms, for example, where you can actually trade across 20, 30, even we've tested up to 500 wallets at once, where you can fund all of them and you can fund them privately, which is also important. So they're not linked on chain. You can fund them with like a Coinbase integration, and we have a couple more integrations coming out soon. And we'll auto randomize everything. Like we'll jitter it for you. We'll make it seem like you're buying over the course of like an hour or two, really however long you want to set. And each wallet will just fire independently. And this is all done kind of within our kind of novel transaction engine that we've built from scratch. Uh, but of course, one of the big risks here is like, we're processing millions of dollars, is what about the security of it, right? That's also important. And we've actually built it in such a way that it's fully non-custodial. We've built on top of Turnkey. But we've also built our own TEE infrastructure, which is trust execution environments, on top of that, such that all trades are executed within this TEE that's been audited, uh, such that like we are never in control of like any of the funds that are moving, even for when like limit orders are firing, for example. It's not like we can screw with the numbers and like actually change your trigger price, and get you a worse fill, because it's all secured by the TE. We can't touch that. So that's why funds especially are excited about this, because it's very powerful, but as I mentioned, it's also very secure.
TEs have, for those who are listening don't know, have become one of the hottest topics over the last few months, especially with AI. This idea of like, okay, well, how do I know if this is actually going to execute and happen the way that I want it to, and nobody's going to mess with it? You guys said that you developed your own TE internally, correct?
So we're building on top of a TE. We're not running we didn't build our own hardware. That's for PhDs. Like,
That's why I was like, wait.
no. That's some super big brain stuff. We are just simply leveraging TEs specifically built on top of like Microsoft's version of TEs,
Yep.
um, to really kind of run this infrastructure ourselves.
And so you guys, so between TEs, swarms, um, and then I think on the privacy side, being able to do a lot of this and not have it be linked back to a known wallet. The only docs that you're basically doxing to is to possibly an exchange like Coinbase or Kraken. You're trying to basically get uh, the most aggressive traders that want the highest edge and the most tools at their disposal.
Exactly. And on that privacy point, like you touched upon a good thing, whereas like only really if you're funding from Coinbase or a centralized exchange, only really like they know. But also importantly, everything, all this transaction execution is fired off chain as well. If you use Jupiter, for example, you'll actually be posting your limit orders or your TWAPs on chain, and then they'll execute. Obviously, this leaves you open to getting front run if you're moving significant size. So this way, it really just goes like a market order on chain. Nothing else is posted on chain, and we handle everything within our own infrastructure first.
Interesting. So you are in if you're moving funds and you don't want to be front run, there is a significant advantage to this.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm gonna get real selfish here because this was a very hot topic last Sunday after I made a tweet saying like, "Hey, here's my public wallet. I'm gonna trade and won't people follow along." And a lot of people push back on that, which I think is a valid reaction.
Mhm.
Um, but if I were to stream and I don't want people to know, and as long as like my specific wallet and I'm not trying to show as much, but technically like I could be placing trades and not getting front run like immediately as that trade's hit because of how you guys are executing.
Yeah, exactly. Um, really, what you'd be doing is you could be trading through ChainPro. You could set up your limit orders. You could be like, I'm in early. I want to take profit at this price, and no one would know that, right? Because that only exists within the realm of ChainPro. Once we're getting a continuous stream of prices for that token. Once that price is hit, then we'll just trigger the order for you immediately.
That's
But that
it's
process
cool.
doesn't happen. Yeah, that process is not on chain.
So and before we dive into like deeper, more technical and start exploring some more of this, can you explain, your both the team's background, how you guys got here, and your journey within the crypto space so far?
Yeah, totally. For myself, I graduated from Brown in 2021. Had always loved building lots of projects and like not only in crypto but also outside. Ended up joining Stripe right out of school. I was working on distributed systems there. They actually, let me build their entire like chaos engineering platform, which like if you're not familiar, is this idea where you can effectively like kind of break their infrastructure from the inside to kind of expose faults and like resiliency failure. So
Hmm,
what happens if you take the service down, right? And obviously for Stripe, reliability is really important because they're processing billions of dollars a day. So I ended up doing that for a bit, and then I ended up joining Sam, my co-founder, at his previous company called Slide. Um, and you can think of Slide as almost like a wallet as a service product, kind of similar to what you like would see Privy like kind of becoming today. Um, we were specifically focusing on NFT checkout, which was pretty hot back then. This idea where you could just put in your credit card and have an NFT kind of come to this wallet for which you only use your email to sign up. Ended up winding that down. There wasn't just a lot of demand for it. So I ended up actually going back to Stripe to work on MPC wallets. So, you can kind of see a trend of like
yeah,
working on wallet infrastructure kind of over and over again. So I ended up like helping Stripe build out like their MPC wallets, was helping on like the crypto on-ramp stuff. Um, but finally, after a year of that, we were building some projects on Blast that did pretty well. And then we were like, it's time to, start a company because we believe that, we can build like the most powerful trading infrastructure possible. Uh, and for Sam, he went to Columbia, ended up dropping out to join Polymarket. So he was at Polymarket for a bit, working on wallet infrastructure. Started Slide, more wallet infrastructure. He was working at a family office, working on like large scale farming tools, which is pretty cool. Again, like this is all like, how do you handle many wallets at once? How do you kind of
Right.
coordinate between them? And then finally end up starting ChainPro, probably in June of last year.
Incredible. You guys have a very interesting background and story, and obviously you have to be very technical, and you have to be a builder to pull off something like Chain Pro, which is exciting. I wanna dive into the current landscape of other terminals in the space and other trading tools. Um, I would say 90, high percentage of people, over 2/3 are either using BullX or they're using Photon right now to trade. Uh, where like to those people, like what is your sell to them on like stop what you're doing, get the fuck off that, come trade with us, and
Yeah.
here's why. Like what's like how walk me through that one.
Totally. So the first one, of course, that I touched upon earlier is definitely the security aspect of things. We've talked to many traders, and we're not trying to like FUD these applications at all, but like a
Yeah.
lot of these traders uh, who are putting significant volume through Photon are continuously taking profits out of the Photon wallet. Uh, just because, it's a custodial solution. It's great for certain things, but long term, we want to create the best interface to do anything in crypto. It doesn't necessarily have to be sniping meme coins post pump migration, right? So that's kind of this is where we started, because obviously meme coins trading is hot, but there's a much bigger vision here. The idea is that, we're providing very powerful tools now, but we have a lot more exciting things coming, and we're actually thinking, very much into the future. Uh, Also, fees are higher on Photon and BullX, and we'll probably actually announce this sometime next week, but we're planning on flipping that business model on its head. That will really, make people very incentivized to join and like trade on ChainPro, because, as I mentioned, there's a much bigger picture here. We're not necessarily interested in going max extraction mode for however long this meme coin trade continues to last. So I think kind of those are the two main things. And then, of course, we offer a ton of features. We'd like to think we're pretty close to feature parity with Photon BullX. We have our own version of kind of meme scope coming out very soon. We offer swarms, which no one else really offers kind of at the scale that we can offer it. As I mentioned, like 500 wallets. So it's all kind of those things kind of in parallel, uh, where we are, lower fees, thinking long term, more secure, and of course we have a wide variety of features as well.
Right. I think some people hear swarms and they think, well, no, there's multi wallet on, BullX, or I think Photon has as well. But you guys like, and you're explaining there is a far more sophisticated side to that within your application, which I use the word jitter, use the word, over time, you use the thesis of like doing this over time. Could you touch on that a little bit more? Because I'm not familiar. I've never used like a swarm. So I like to me, it's almost like, wait, that sounds amazing. I could put in, 100 ETH over an hour on all these different wallets and, end up with X amount of supply and nobody knows. That's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, totally. So I guess like going through the user journey here, like the user would want to create a new swarm. They can create up to I think 20 in the UI, but if people request up to 500, we're very liberal with like, go ahead, here you go. Uh, and I think the important part here is the integration as well, specifically with Coinbase, which people have really, really liked and enjoy, where all you need to do is kind of specify your, Coinbase account, you put in the API key. Importantly, API key is secured by TEs, because again, this is a pretty sensitive key that you are
Yeah,
taking out of your Coinbase account and putting into ChainPro. So you can then put in your Coinbase API key, and you can choose to fund this wallet over however long you want, right? Because everything is automated in the background. So we actually have people setting up swarms weeks in advance, where they will have, 20, 30 wallet swarms that are just like ready to go, if that makes sense. Uh,
interesting.
because, whenever they see an opportunity, they will have a swarm of, say, 20 wallets that have been funded with 100 ETH, or, many hundreds of Sol. Um, and then when they hit buy, you can choose a few options, right? So you can choose over what time period you want to buy the token. And we recommend the longer the time period, the less likely these wallets are to be linked. And we auto jitter everything, right? Meaning that it's not going to be, if you have 100 Sol, it's 10 Sol across 10 wallets. There's a tolerance with everything. So it'll look pretty random. There'll be like 9.6 Sol bought with one wallet, 10.2 the other wallet. Uh, and it's not just that, right? We also offer like you can start TWAPing with these swarms as well. So it's not just single buys. Coming out today actually is you can set up stop TWAPs with your clusters. So only when the price of the token hits a certain amount, then you start TWAPing with your swarm. So I think this idea where you just have as many tools as you would ever need available at your disposal for whatever you want to do on chain. And the only place you can do that is chainpro.
It's funny because I think for a lot of people in their heads, they think, and we've started to see more features come out, but moving off of a sex onto decentralized on-chain trading felt like you were losing all the features, and you all of a sudden you didn't have margin or leverage trading, you didn't have stop losses, basically for people needing to understand, like, there's a point where when you swapped ETH for a token, you were fully responsible for selling that and monitoring it, making sure it execute, like, there was no, like, the UI is like very behind there. But now we're entering this age where people do expect to have the most tools even though they are on chain. um, I'm curious, like, big goal here is to be like the like most tools, most features, nobody else can compare, have like it just be like the best. Is that end goal? Like you just want domination?
I mean, to some extent, yeah. I mean, I think the mission here, like not necessarily chain pro only, is the volume that are traded through decentralized protocols needs to increase, right? We all believe in crypto as a concept, uh, and it's accessible, it's democratized, kind of all these buzzwords that you've heard been thrown around like the crypto ecosystem. So our job is to almost kind of how like I worked at Stripe, like increase the GDP of the internet.
Mm,
In some ways, like chainpro should be doing that for decentralized protocols. We should be the interface through which anyone can not only trade, they can do LP, they can OTC, they can do basis trading. Like this is all on the roadmap. And to your point, yeah, I guess that kind of just sounds like we want to do everything, we want to dominate, but I think that's what it will take to like bring more people and volume on chain.
it's exciting. I noticed when I was doing research that you guys weren't. It wasn't just Solana. You guys have looked at other chains. Can you walk me through um the entire scope of like who you support, new additions, and then future ones that are on your roadmap?
Totally. So Solana, by far, we do the most volume on, as you can expect. We support Base and Ethereum mainnet, as well as Hyperliquid Spot, which has been pretty cool. I think we launched Hyperliquid Spot probably late December, and the exciting innovation there is that it's just hard to bridge onto Hyperliquid. You need to go to Arbitrum first, and then like, use a specific Hyperliquid bridge.
Yep.
So we automated that again with the TE, right? The recurring theme here is that with this TE and like our transaction engine, we can pretty much automate anything you'd want to do in crypto. So we support Hyperliquid Spot. We recently supported Abstract probably early last week, and Barachain came out today. So that'll probably come out in the next day or so. We're also excited about like things like Hyper EVM. We participated in the Monad March Madness competition, so we'll be supporting them, of course. It's really, we want to be the interface for everything. And of course, it's trading now, but as I alluded to earlier, there's a couple, more exciting things also on the horizon. Things like basis trading, LPing, things like
Yeah.
that. We're starting to work towards as well.
It's I'm there's so many different directions we can go here. I'm curious on, for those who haven't built a trading terminal before, which is all, everybody listening. Um the actual like lift of that, being able to get all of this information, have like the right, pricing, dealing with that, like that aggregation's got to be a big lift. You How are you guys like ensuring to make sure like that's all handled, like people know they're getting the best price, and you're using the right oracles, etc.
Yeah, totally. It's a combination of thinking ahead of like thinking, and building good abstractions ahead of time, just on a technical level, working with great partners, and ultimately just hustling. Like for example, in Solana, we ensure we get you the best price. We pull price from like a couple of different sources. Anytime we do like we integrate with the new chain, we have obviously an RPC. but we typically have 2 or 3 backup RPCs if the primary one goes down. So there's like a lot of detail there and kind of how we think about supporting new chains and protocols. Uh, Also, lots of credit to the team. Incredibly gifted talent, like talent wise and technically. John, our third co-founder, who I haven't mentioned yet, is an absolute wizard and like makes this process very easy. So yeah, it just kind of comes down to a combination of working with the right people and long days at the office.
I can only imagine, man. I also noticed that you guys have iOS and Android support, correct?
Yeah,
Is that through an app?
yeah. So you can download it off the App
Interesting.
Store. Yeah.
What is your do you know what your percentage breakdown between mobile and web is? I'm curious if this trend is continuing and how you guys are approaching like mobile traders versus web traders. Because to be a hedge fund quality terminal, most people would be like, okay, that is web based. Like
Yeah.
they are dealing with millions of dollars in a terminal in front of multiple monitors. They want the best tools. But then you're bringing this to possibly the kid who's on a school bus on the way to, high school and is like, "I want the best tools, but I wanna be trading shitters."
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting breakdown.
Yeah, so it's actually a funny story. Like the original thesis when we started the company was to be very mobile first, and that's why we kind of started down the mobile route. And we had to go back and forth with Apple a bunch of times. We had to get legal memos, all this sort of stuff.
Oh
Anyone
my
who's
god.
built in crypto and try to get an app through the App Store will share our pain. But I think as we shifted to more professional kind of hedge fund quality tools, the usage has definitely kind of swung back to be more web. Uh, but we have heard from a lot of these traders is that if they're at lunch or dinner or somewhere and they need to get quickly into a position, they have the same tools available, right? Obviously, it's a little clunkier, and we're working on it, right? It's just hard to type things into a small screen. But if you want to run your cluster or swarm TWAP on mobile on iOS in the middle of the club, you can, right? Like it's available to you if you need it. But definitely a lot more volume is coming from web now.
What a fantastic, example. Unfortunately, I think for some listeners, that is very applicable. Um, but yeah, we haven't seen a lot of these, like good web to mobile like companies. Like there are some that I've used on the web where I enjoy it on web, but then the mobile interface is through, I have to use either Telegram or it isn't optimized. It doesn't have the same feel. And I feel like I've like reduced my actual like effectiveness if I'm on mobile like significantly. Um, so to know that is interesting. I think having a native app also gives you far more control of what you're doing as well and how that user experience is handled.
Yeah, totally. It's a lot easier to do a lot of things to kind of hook into the underlying like Apple or Android primitives. It also just feels better for users. It's hard to describe, as someone like very technical. Sometimes, it's a PWA, it's an iOS app. You just use it, right? But like
Yeah,
I think people just fundamentally just identify more with an app that they've gotten from the App Store.
yeah.
Maybe it's this idea that you've gone through like the Apple official process or something like that. It just feels less janky. So I'm glad we have an app in the App Store for that reason.
Yeah. So on we've talked a lot about the trading side and actual like tools that you need to execute. Um, but there are many steps before you get to clicking buy. And the biggest one that a lot of people talk about is discoverability. I've noticed that you guys have a good trending area on the site and that just using it for a little bit definitely works. But how are you guys approaching like the analysis side of finding the right stuff, being early, market trends, early alpha, like aggregating that and giving traders that edge in a single spot instead of having to be like, okay, I have all my alpha groups, I have everything pulled up, and then I'll go to chainpro to trade.
Totally, and that's something we definitely need to kind of work on. I think one thing that we've heard time and time again from traders is we need a meme scope equivalent or a pump vision on BullX. So that's coming out soon, right? Because that's where a lot of these traders just sit for hours and hours, combing through tokens, trying to figure out what's good. We're also excited to integrate with a couple partners to do things like bundle detection, which I think is getting more and more common nowadays. But just giving traders the right stats to make informed decisions without them having to paste the contract address into a separate Telegram bot or a separate site to really figure out if this token is worth it. I think there's also a lot of a few interesting things on like the semi-social side with like wallet tracking and copy trading as well. Obviously, we don't have that yet, but that's definitely something that we're thinking about. Just because we want, to your point, to increase the number of eyeballs on our site at any given time, right? People are coming to us to trade, but how do we really complete that life cycle? And a lot of that comes from alpha aggregation, maybe partnering with certain Telegram bots and giving them like rev share. If people click through that alpha that they provide, I think there's a lot of interesting things we can do there. Uh, we've started with trade execution, but we definitely need to work our ways kind of up and down the stack to become the best trading tool possible.
Right. Yeah, that bundle detection side, we're seeing more and more advanced techniques being used and using sister wallets and, a lot of crazy stuff happening on that end. Um, One area I'm curious if you guys are going to address, because I know I've gotten like a lot of debates over this, which is wash trading and wash volume. Is that something you guys have considered being able to address and be like, hey, this is real volume from like real traders versus, hey, this is just, 10% of the volume today has just been washed.
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely something we actually talked about this as a team. I think probably 2 days ago. I was like, what's the best way to identify it? Um, right now, like the best proxy, which is not really the best proxy that we is like as it could be, is like what percentage of volume is from fresh wallets. Because that typically will indicate either bundling or wash trading or something like that. Uh, but we are working on better ways to detect this sort of stuff because you're right. A lot of these top tokens that insta migrate and suddenly like start shooting up in market cap, it's all just wash trading, right? Or like being market made by somebody or some entity. Uh,
Yeah.
so figuring out kind of how to identify those things are important as well.
Yeah, because I'm always looking at, it's interesting because you have like the insider indicators, you have the bot indicators, you have the large holders, you have sniper indicators. Um, I mean, snipers is even another one. Like, I don't know if you guys are thinking about how you approach having sniping tools integrated or anti sniping. I there's so many different ways you can play into this. Obviously, you're not a launch pad, so anti-snipe isn't really like on your radar. But if you're trying to be the most advanced tool, I would expect that you're thinking about, hey, like if you know a launch is coming, you can come here and know that a T is going to execute a trade the second a ticker comes up or a name comes up, or if you have the CA when it gets active for launch.
Yeah, totally. Again, like the goal is to just almost like let you create, like make you your own developer. Like especially with AI tools that are coming out that are making like the average developer way better. Like you should be able to pick like whatever rules and conditions and whatever you really need, and that'll all get signed by you on the front end and get packaged into our TE, and we'll just execute it for you. It's almost like we are the execution layer, and you can pick whatever you want, really, right? You can pick any sort of conditions, and we'll do that for you. It doesn't necessarily need to be trading; it can be anything. But for example, you're sniping a CA as soon as it launches, or as soon as this address deploys a token, is are great use cases.
That's something clicked for me just there when you explained that you guys are just you're basically allowing people to set conditions and then you're shoving that into a TE, which saying this out loud, it seems very obvious, but the idea of basically giving people the ability to build out their own custom rule sets and then have that be executed um, seems way more powerful than I think most will realize, and I hope that people take a second to understand that, because we haven't had these tools to our disposal yet before, and TEs haven't been used, I would say, widespread in a way where this is um, kind of like a common, like going to become more common. How do you think people are scared of TEs to an extent? I think people, and this is just my like an opinion kind of question, but I think people are like, how do I know? How can I trust it? Like, the technology is so sophisticated and smart that it seems out of my like my realm. And it's almost back to like the blockchain. Nobody actually understands, or most people don't actually understand the thing they're
Yeah,
using every day. But there is like it is a bit scary to be like, all right, I'm trusting that this is secure.
totally. I mean, that's a great point. I think a lot of it has to come from ourselves and kind of the education aspect of things. A blog post about how ChainPro works is long overdue, and we just kind of want to kind of explain in detail kind of the individual pieces. I think it's also important to zoom out and kind of think about the progress that we've made. Like, for example, Telegram bots, or even take like Hyperfund bot on for Hyperliquid. They're just like moving values in the database, right? Or like they have their private keys that are being stored, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is definitely a much better step forward. I think one thing that's exciting that is probably even further out is this idea that we as Chain Pro uh, don't even know your orders and don't even know your triggers, and everything is packaged up such that we are just executing it, but within the TE is the only place that, or even the triggers are visible, right? So I think there's definitely steps we need to take to get there.
Are like Bullx and Photon, I keep using them, and there's probably a dozen other competitors that I'm not mentioning, but like they know all that information, right? Which is a little like that then opens up a whole nother conversation around like, could they act off of that information in some way?
Yeah, yeah, totally, right? Like all these it's very possible. Uh, I'm not saying that they do, no idea, but
Right, right, right. Yeah, nobody's saying that. I'm just like I always go back to like the when Citadel locked down Robinhood during, the whole GameStop thing. It's like, okay, Citadel knows what because they're technically doing the market making in the book, but they know what every user and retail is doing and they can act in real time faster off of that information if they wanted to. Um and again, not saying that they do. I don't want Ken to smack me the next time he sees me, but like, I like genuinely like there is a like users should feel more secure and safer coming using TEs is a good takeaway.
Totally. And kind of to that point, right? Like the natural evolution of kind of these more powerful on-chain trading tools is that you think about the single developer. They were able to write scripts and do kind of everything in-house by themselves, but that's not very accessible, right? Only really they could figure that out. Then there was it kind of swung back the other way where it became very accessible, but it wasn't necessarily secure, right? The UX got a lot better. You no longer need to use like MetaMask or Phantom. You can use Photon and Bullx. And now I feel like, and I've seen a couple others come out where we kind of swing back the other way, where we're keeping kind of all the same important UX features and kind of powerful automations, but also have the security built into it. And the final form is, what we've talked about, where now a user can pick whatever they want to do. And they've actually almost come back to the original position of you are as powerful as a developer writing their own scripts, but now all the hard stuff is done for you. You can just innovate on what will make you money, as opposed to setting up transaction submission infrastructure and like your own RPCs and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of the progression I have in my mind, and we want to get to that last step as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that everything you're saying, I love. It's exciting. The one thing I wrote down here was, and I circled it because I thought it was so funny, is that you guys have alerts built in, correct?
Yeah.
Um, we don't there no other like nobody else has alerts. You have no idea what's going on until you pull up and look at your positions. Like that is such a simple like a simple feature that the second I saw that I was like, I need this because I want to know like on my phone or at least even in like when I pull whether it's an email or however that's being handled, I want to know what's going on in my portfolio. But not all these terminals are thinking about, I think, user experience as much as they're thinking about just, okay, I want them to come trade and I want the fees. Which is, I think, it works in a bull market whenever it's frothy and people are, trying to throw money. But then the second we get into this market, which is people are like, okay, I need to actually have the best tools at my disposal. I need to be finding things that are good. Um, and I want to have alerts on because I need to be fast here. And I don't want to pay huge fees. It becomes a way different game, a way different game.
Totally. The simple example I like to give is if you wanted to bridge from Solana to Hyperliquid on ChainPro, you could do it on your laptop, go for a walk, and 2 minutes later, you get a push notification on your phone that the bridge has been complete and your funds are ready to use on Hyperliquid.
Do
Right.
you? Oh, so you guys do all the bridging in terminal?
Yeah, exactly. So we do multi steps for you, and that's kind of part of the idea behind we can just automate anything you want to do on chain, uh, and we want to get to a point where you can enter and exit positions, you can set up auto strategies. Again, like you should be able to do whatever you want. We'll just take care of the execution.
Is there a point where you just have a dollar value essentially in your in your terminal, and like if you want to buy $100,000 of we'll use Mog. You want to buy $100,000 of Mog, but I have 50,000 of Sol. I've got 25K of ETH. I've got 25K in Bitcoin. And a user's like identified like, hey, if I want to enter a position and click use multi-currency, you guys will do all the swapping into ETH and then do the swap for them. And it's like it feels seamless at that point.
Yeah,
Like
the goal is to make anything one click, and
that's crazy.
we're actually pretty close to that, supporting like multiple currencies and bridging and stuff. It's a matter of kind of how many automations can we string together at once. Uh, but yeah, definitely on the roadmap where no matter where your asset is, no matter what you want to enter, it'll just happen.
Yeah, I keep coming back. I don't want to like pick on other platforms because that's not the point of this. But there have been times where like I've wanted to buy a token, and it's like, oh well, I gotta move ETH over into this wallet because I want to have it in a trading terminal, and I don't have enough ETH in there right now. And like, but I have all the Sol, but then I would have to take the Sol and I'd have to go swap it and then bring it back, and it's all these steps, and it's like, come on, it's 2025. The blockchain's been like this should not be where like my friction point is right now. Um,
So
uh, it's amazing here that you guys are building out those features and thinking about. I think user experience, and friction points are are a huge area that just get overlooked. And I think the bull market made a lot of companies get really soft on not being aggressive against those points.
yeah, 100%. I mean, but when there's money flowing, it's okay, right? As long as the number is going up, no one really cares. But now that maybe things have cooled off a bit, uh, it's important to kind of get back to basics and kind of really understand what your users need and make sure you're building the best tools for them. So, to your
Right.
point, if you have 25K on 4 chains and you want something on Solana, we should be able to do that entire process for you and maybe even split that across 5 wallets if it's a super illiquid token, right? We should be able to use a swarm tech as well, right? So all these things need to work together in a way that is just really one click or whatever you dream of, we can do.
I that is insane. To actually think about that happening is insane. That gets me hyped. I have a question around how you guys are approaching. So we've talked about like finding the tokens. We've found about funding. We've
Yeah.
talked about executing trades. On your features side and like how you guys approach partnerships and integrations, because there's always new, people building other things that can be very complementary. How are you guys approaching that strategy for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I think there are a few things. One, we haven't really done much marketing or really any sort of outreach. For context, like ChainPro in its current form launched early December, so it's still pretty new. I think blockchains are the most kind of obvious kind of partner, if you will, if you want to count them like that. Like we try to integrate with kind of every new product that comes up. Perps is definitely on the roadmap, and we're going to be using Hyperliquid for that. I think that's probably the obvious choice at this point. But as we kind of go down the list and think through like what are interesting kind of yield protocols or other protocols that could be useful to almost have as like a first party within our product. Launch pads come to mind, right? Like everyone has meme scope and pump vision now. But Flanch on base looks pretty interesting. Played around with it a little bit. Seems like they have kind of some interesting models going on, so that could be cool. Um, Another one that could be cool is Renegade on Arbitrum, which is a dark pool. I saw that they just integrated with Definitive, and that's definitely something that we would want to kind of offer at some point for people with serious size. So it's really what users ask for, right? Because like if users want to take some action that's not supported by us, we'll make sure we find the right way to do it.
What have you had any of those moments yet where users have kind of pulled you into a direction where you're like, oh, we don't have that yet, but we're gonna build we're building that. We'll build that for you now.
Yeah, so a simple example is bridging off of Hyperliquid, which is it's just like it just sounds like somewhat obvious, but specifically doing a gasless swap on Arbitrum when bridging off of Hyperliquid, because the only bridge off of Hyperliquid is through Arbitrum, and you get USDC. But if you want to swap that into ETH, you need ETH on Arbitrum. That's a problem if you're
That
bridging off if you're bridging off of Hyperliquid. Actually, Sam, my co-founder, had this great insight where we were making people fund their Arbitrum wallet first. And he's like, "This is horrible. Like this shouldn't this is not what chainpro."
there is a better way.
There is a better way. So we end up integrating. Like 1inch has this pretty cool like gasless product called Fusion, I think. We end up integrating that product such that you can actually go from Hyperliquid to Arbitrum and then to like Solana, and you only ever had to have USDC on Hyperliquid, right? You didn't need to have kind of the ETH in the middle, which reduced a huge amount of pain for users. So there's obviously like these little things, and then bigger things like, for example, swarm stop limits, which is kind of a wordy mouthful, which is coming out today or tomorrow, was requested by one of our larger, more power users, because they want that functionality, and they want to be able to trade with as many tools as they could on a centralized exchange. So we really pride ourselves in being very responsive to users. Like we have a Telegram channel, and we're always trying to respond a couple seconds or a minute at max. And whatever they say goes, pretty much.
I mean, you have to listen to the users. Like I've noticed that companies that don't seem to do that don't really last that long.
Yeah.
Which again, not a really a grand idea. It's a very simple one, but um, yeah, I think you guys you're approaching a lot of this in a way that like gets me excited. And especially as somebody who like I will have weeks where I am like absolutely in front of I'm trading. I am in trading mode. And there's other days where I'll trade once or twice a day or not even at all. I'm just trying to see what the market's doing and waiting and being patient. Um and I think it's needed that we have somebody come in and kind of stir up the norm, because I just haven't seen anything else that I'm like, that's novel aside from you guys and what you're doing. Um, I guess another area, because you brought this up, is having the Telegram, and you guys have just recently launched, have a community. How are you guys approaching from like social growth ideation, like you know, social reference, like having referrals and doing like activating certain communities? Maybe like have you thought about like doing stuff where there is a social aspect to it, because we've seen that do really well on like Vector and these other apps that they're all about like, hey, no privacy, everything's out there. You guys have gone a little bit on the other side of like privacy, nobody can see anything. um how are you kind of balancing that?
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, this is something that we are actively working on. We have a referral program where you earn 30% of whatever fees that we earn from the people you refer, which is pretty generous, I think, compared to a lot of these other pro trading tools. Uh, but largely, we've been focusing on building. And all credits to our users who are way more kind of in the weeds across all these ecosystems, more so than we are. We view like supporting things early as a great way to kind of go viral, because if an asset gets hot and chainpro is the only place to trade it securely and in size, that's almost like good marketing by itself, right? Because I feel like especially in crypto, the circle is relatively small, and trading alpha spreads quickly. So if we can provide the best tools, we feel like we will naturally spread. And then we plan on doing a couple, as I alluded to, we're going to flip the business model on its head probably next week or the week after, like, and
I,
prepare for kind of bigger launches to make, to propel our volume and metrics.
I don't want to get you in trouble, but I'm so curious. So, like, because in my head, there isn't like you have to have these fees. You have to, and obviously some of them are egregious. Like, and you have to say it plain simple. They're
Yeah.
egregious. Um, I'm so interested to see what you guys do, and that's coming out next week.
Probably next week or the week after. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you can make me wait even longer. That's terrible.
Like, pretty much what I'll say on this is that we want to be the most community aligned platform out there. Um, as we've talked about, when money's going up, volume's going up, it's okay. Like, people don't care about paying 1% fees, but at the end of the day, that's extraordinarily extractive. And there has to be a better way, like, both kind of to maintain kind of long-term excitement and alignment in crypto. And fees are likely not the only way to create a great trading product. So we're excited about it. We hope to cause some waves and maybe ruffle some feathers.
I mean,
We'll
I
see.
still am sitting here going, "What the fuck are these guys doing?" Like, I don't, I maybe that shows I'm not as smart as I think I am. But I had on Bold Leonidas last night actually, and he went on a rant, like a serious rant about how the biggest villain from this cycle has been like BullX and Photon. Like they're the ones that we should be mad at. It's not these people launching the tokens. That's their independent. It is these terminals that are essentially just stealing money, doing nothing. Um, and I think it's a very I think that ruffled some feathers on its own, like having that
Yeah.
take. And I don't fully agree. There is some truth in there. I think so. Um, but I know he is one where if you showed him this and were like, look, we're fixing the model, I think I would love to know his reaction. That definitely somebody that I will send this to.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're necessarily the biggest villains, and maybe I'm approaching this from a developer's perspective, a builder's perspective. They built a good product. It works, and
It
it's
works.
fantastic. It's very good, uh, and they deserve to get paid for it. And the market should decide what their fee should be, right? Like, if everyone else started charging way less fees, they'd probably have to drop their fees. So why is no
Right.
one else dropping fees? All right. It's like, it kind of reminds me of this like Tyler the Creator quote. I don't know. It's like kind of like this meme where it's like he like quote retweeted someone like getting cyberbullied, and then he just closed the laptop, dude. Like, problem solved. Like, same sort of deal, right? Like, just use something else. So I think the market needs to decide all of these things, and hopefully, we will be one of the first movers in that space.
Too funny, man. Are you? I mean, in the current meta we're in, it is trenches, meme coin trading, etc. And obviously, if it shifted into like a different meta that was fungible tokens, you guys can easily do that. Are you guys thinking about other asset? Are you thinking about NFTs? Are you thinking about token bound NFTs? Or you guys just hey, that's too left field for now. We obviously know about it, and we'll if that arises, we'll go there.
Yeah, I mean, we're largely happy to chase market narratives to some degree, right? Like, if NFTs become hot again, we're well positioned to support them. Um, I think one idea that we're really excited about is like basis trading, especially with kind of Hyperliquid doing so well, and their API is fantastic.
Can you explain that in detail?
Yeah, totally. So I don't know if you're familiar with Athena, um, which is now a $10 billion protocol, but it's this idea where you hold a spot asset and you short it with a perp, such that your position is delta neutral. In that, if the price goes up of the spot asset, you're still making money because the price of the spot asset you hold is going up, and your short position obviously like becomes less valuable. But vice versa, if the price of the asset goes down, your short position is more valuable, right? And you can actually collect the difference, which is called the funding rate, between longs and shorts, because typically more people in crypto are long than they are short. So this is a way of making money in a delta neutral way. And that's just one example of something that we are excited about supporting, because we've built our engine to be extraordinarily flexible, right? It doesn't have to start and end with meme coin trading. Who knows how long the volume will last? So whatever kind of opportunities that arise and whatever people ask for, especially kind of our larger kind of whale users that are putting significant size, we can support it, and we'll be the one interface that supports all those things.
Right. How are you guys handling on like the MEV side and getting sandwich side? Are you guys is that obviously top of mind for some of these large transactions?
Yeah, I don't think we're doing anything necessarily novel.
Mm,
We've integrated with Jitto and Temporal and Bloxroot, and they largely do all the heavy lifting there. Uh, One advice that we give for people trading with size is split up your orders, and you can do that very easily with swarms and things like that. But I don't think it's necessarily something that we've like actively thought about, because it's not hasn't really come up as a big concern.
amazing. For somebody who's listening to this and they're sold on it and they want to get started, they just need to go to ChainPro. What is it? It's chainpro.xyz
Yeah.
and they can sign up and get funded within a matter of minutes to be trading, right? There's nothing crazy going on.
No, it's sign up and start. That's all you need to do, and send me feedback, or me or Sam feedback. We are very responsive and address things very quickly. So yeah, please
I mean,
send us.
you guys have been very accessible, and we got introduced through a friend who, um, only sends me either the wackiest stuff. I'm not gonna say it on stream, but he's like he'll send me crazy, crazy companies that are doing things. And I'm like, all right, yeah, in 30 years, buddy, that'll be relevant. Or he sends me things that are like truly interesting, and I'm like, wow, that actually is a player in the game. Um, so I think that I just want to say this publicly, like his endorsement of you guys and liking what you're doing, I think is a huge reason that we're talking. And I think that I hope more people understand that they should venture out and explore these other services that are out there that'll give them more tools and give them a higher advantage. Um, I'm I just think you can't get pigeonholed into a singular like, hey, I've been using BullX forever. I'm comfortable here. You have to go and try other things and like get through that like, oh, this is new to me period. And then see if you want to stay or go.
Totally. Honestly, one of the highest ROI things you can do in crypto in general is try new products. Uh, if you're early, you'll probably get a fat airdrop in some cases, but at the very least, you've tried out products from what is still a very nascent industry, and it'll only just help you become a better trader or just kind of participant in crypto. So no, I'm not just like being like everyone go from Photon to try out Chain Pro. I just mean in general, I think
Right.
it's just a good thing to do, and a lot of times it's worth it because people in the space are just constantly innovating and getting better.
Are you guys going to is it the same platform and tool for everybody? There's no tiers or advanced features or anything right now?
Everybody has everything. We have an API as well that some people have been interested in. That's like kind of the one thing that you got to ask me for, but I just say sure, right? Like, and here it is, right? Like that's kind of the only thing. But yeah, we as I said, we want to be super community aligned. There's no gatekeeping of features. You don't need to hit a certain amount of volume to unlock other things. You don't need to pay more per wallet you set up in a swarm. Very standard. Everyone gets everything. What you see is what you get.
I love the community first approach. Every of all the guests that I've had on, the ones that have kind of spit the most game have really emphasized that the winner, like Mega ETH, is a good example. I'm actually curious. I assume it if Mega ETH when they hit mainnet, you guys will support what they're doing because that aligns very closely with you, where they're like, hey, fastest transactions, high frequency trading. That's going to require if especially if it's high frequency, if you have uh let's say a hypothesis or an algo that you want to execute, you would have to have that being done somewhere or have a terminal where that's being monitored and executed. Um, but from like a community first standpoint, being able to like think with your users in mind first has attracted and been a very good strategy for a lot of these new protocols.
Totally. Yeah, we're excited to support Mega ETH. I think their test net's pretty soon, so we'll give it a spin. And then excited for mainnet. Definitely excited for that one.
Yeah, I had on bread yesterday. He got me hyped for it. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are going to be using it.
Yeah.
Um, for people that aren't following you, you guys are at chainpro_xyz.
Yep.
And then obviously they can reach out to what's your personal Twitter for people to, I guess, get in contact with you.
Yeah, it's at Shaker Ramaswamy, which is a bit of a mouthful, but you can just go to Chain Pro, and it's one of the accounts that it
There
follows.
you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Uh,
Is there anything else we missed that people should be aware of? I think going forward with ChainPro.
no, I think we covered a lot. I think the main takeaway for Chain Pro to kind of be bullish on us in the future is it will be the platform to do anything, and we will make sure we provide the right tools and security to make sure we are the most powerful place to trade anything in crypto or do anything in crypto.
Fantastic. I can't think of a better way to end. Well, Shaker, thank you so much for jumping on and talking Chain Pro with me. And thank you to everybody else who tuned in and listened. And I hope you guys take a moment and go check out what they're building because it is very cool. And I do think that they have features that nobody else has. Um, and I'm telling you, you want to have things that nobody else has that gives you an edge, and you need the edge to make the profit. Thanks, man, again for tuning in, and
Thank you.
we'll continue our chat.
Yeah, sounds good. Have a good one.
Thank
Bye.
you.